Hello. Hi,
Hey,
Jeremy. Can
can you hear
you
me?
hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Awesome.
I thought it was 5:45. I guess it's 5:30. So,
Okay.
hold on one second. Yeah,
Yeah.
haven't done. We did this together about a month or so ago.
Yep.
How's the rain by you?
It's not too bad.
What part of
I'm
Charlotte do you live in?
kind of southeast Charlotte.
Yeah, me too.
I share an Amity Road.
Yeah, I live in South Park, so not too far.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, let's see who's here. Hold on one
Mhm.
second. Oops.
I'm on my iPad. It's got a cellular connection, so hopefully if my power does go out, I'll still be fine.
Mouse to work here. So, bear with me one second. Let me let see. Let me let people in. I'm going to start recording it. It is recording actually. Okay. Okay, we have 10. Does everyone hear me?
I hear you.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes. Yes, I
Okay,
hear you.
Lucian. Hi. We're going to give it a few minutes only because the weather. So let's give it another few minutes. Sorry, I'm a little late. Everyone's doing okay in this storm?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You have nothing else to do but be on a call today, right? Matt, right? You hunker down. Um, well, my name's not showing up here, but I'm Andrew Dermack. I'm with SCORE. I'm a mentor, and I'm going to get the presentation. We also have Jeremy Lytle here from the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, and
Hello. Glad to be here.
he's going to go on like the last half hour and talk to you about resources. So let me get the presentation up, and then I'll share my screen. Just bear with me. Can you folks see this?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. Um, well, I'm gonna get started, and if other people, trickle in, let me just double check there isn't anyone else here. Uh, Sometimes I can't. Just bear with me one second, because sometimes I have to not share. Let me just unshare this for one second. Okay, I have all the part. Okay, I see it. So it looks like everyone is about 11 of you, actually 8 of you. Need to put my glasses on. I can't see anymore. Okay, so looks like we have 8. So again, let me introduce myself, and then what we're going to do is kind of go around the room. I just want to get to know you, and kind of the questions are, why you, what are you interested in? Why are you interested in this webinar? Tell me a little bit about yourself, and if you're starting a business, what are you thinking of doing? And if you already have a business, if you can tell me a little bit about it. And again, what do you want to know out of this webinar? So I'm going to start with Brenda Brown.
Mhm.
Hi, Brenda.
Hi. Hi. So, like you said, my name is Brenda Brown. I am contemplating starting my own business right now. Uh, I work in mental health, and I work, for a company, but I kind of want to go out on my own and provide more services because I'm a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner and I'm also a veteran. So I
Okay.
kind of want to steer things kind of towards that population.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. And next, Everett, I have on my list.
Yes.
Hi,
How you
Everett.
doing? How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
All right. My name's Everett Williams, and I'm a truck driver. I've been driving for almost 20 years, and I'm a veteran. And I kind of wanted to start my own trucking company. So I've been looking for ideas, doing my research, just
Mhm.
trying to get things going. I got sidetracked it a little bit back in 23. I had a stroke, so I
Oh,
had to
wow.
sidetrack for a minute. But I'm back on track this year, just doing research and trying to get things going.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're doing okay.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna go to I don't know how if I'm saying his name right. Garav, is that right?
Yeah. Gasoline? Oh, and I'm sorry.
Sharda, last
Yeah,
name?
yeah, that's me. Hey
Hi.
everyone, Gaurav Sharda here. I live in the Concord area and had a conversation with Ben and Jim a while back and trying to figure out how I can help in a mentor capacity for the folks who are starting new businesses. So excited to learn more today and hopefully contribute to the broader good of the society.
So you're training to be a mentor, is that what
Yes,
you said?
that is
Okay,
correct.
great. Well, welcome. We
Thank you.
need more. I have Ray here.
Yes.
Hi, Ray.
Hello, how's everyone doing? I'm from the DMV area, retired military. Um, I
What area are you in? I'm sorry.
I'm in the DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia.
I thought you said the DV.
Well,
The
that's what the
department, the
young kids,
DMV. Yeah.
yeah, that's what the young kids call it now, DMV.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, so retired military. I'm not sure what I want to do as far as opening a business, but right now I just want to learn all I can, get all the knowledge I can and take classes and set up maybe um, a plan, a business plan,
Mhm.
when I'm ready to start to open a business. So right now I just want to kind of get my feet wet, find out everything I can, and get all the information I can, and go from there.
Okay, great. Thank you. And next I have, I don't know what's wrong with my Zoom. I can't make it bigger, but I guess it doesn't matter to you. Did Everett speak yet?
Yeah, I spoke.
Okay, you spoke. Okay, Sharon Freed.
Hi, and thank you for knowing how to pronounce my name.
Okay, it's not that hard.
Oh,
You get fried.
I mean, come on, it spelled like fried. So,
Yeah, I figured it was Freed.
so I've been nursing actually a number of ideas, but I'm intent or concentrated on one at present,
There you go.
and it's an idea for T-shirts. And all of a sudden, I cannot think of the name. Ralph Lauren. What kind of shirt is that? What do you call that? Collared kind of.
Oh, a
T-shirt.
button down.
Polo.
Polo. Thank you so much. Polo. How could I not know that?
Polo. Yeah, I couldn't think of it.
Ralph Lauren. So thank you. Anyway, I have a great idea because I worked in the business some time back, actually, when I was in graduate school in the early 80s. I know the business, although of course it's changed, it's digitized, but that's, not a big thing for me. Anyway, I believe I have an audience that I would be producing a product for an audience that already exists. So anyway, I'm ready to get started and actually do it. And I want to get products out to you to show to university people, marketers, people who are in a position to buy. Actually, by the 21st of this month. So
Mhm.
I'm racing. We're ready to race. That's my
Where-
story. Thank you.
Where'd you say you were from? I'm sorry, I must have missed that.
I live in
Where?
Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Oh, wow. In New
Mhm.
Mexico. Yeah, we really got people all around. Okay. Well, you're missing a nice storm here, so in
I
Charlotte.
know, and it's beautiful here. Oh my God,
Yeah.
it's gorgeous, sunny.
Yeah. We're getting
Sorry.
like just nonstop rain. It's crazy. We usually don't get the hurricanes here. We usually get the after effects. I mean, we'll get some wind tonight, but you know what happens is when everything gets saturated, you don't have as many trees there as we do, so the trees start to fall.
Oh, yeah,
Anyway,
that's
yeah. Well, thank you so much. Next, I got. Did James speak yet, Dugan?
No, no. Hi, everybody. Jim Dugan. I am a SCORE mentor provisional taking this course as part of my onboarding requirements and look forward to the meeting.
Okay. Well, thanks so much. Jill Pride.
Yes, my name is Jill Pride. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, enjoying this rainy, beautiful weather.
Yeah. Right.
But my background is culinary arts. I am in the market. I say market because I have an idea. It's not solid yet since I do not have a business plan. I do chocolates. I make custom chocolate products as far as anything that you can think of, from heels, chocolate heels, purses, watches, things of that nature. And I want to get my ducks in a row to properly have a legitimate business.
Great. Well, thank you for joining. Did I miss anybody? Did I talk to Ray yet? I guess I did.
Yes,
Can't
you
remember.
did.
Okay. I think I got everybody. Did anyone not talk? We got Brenda, Everett, Freya.
Freya. Mhm.
Freya, I'm sorry.
It's quite all right.
Um,
I'm actually calling in from upstate New York, and I am looking to explore starting an HR talent management and learning development business. That's my background for 20 plus years, and I'm looking to create a side gig for myself.
Okay, great. Well, welcome from what part of upstate?
I'm about 30 miles south of Rochester, right on the
Okay.
Finger Lakes. Mhm.
Yeah, my aunt lives in Rochester, so I know the area a little bit.
Right.
I'm from New York, if you haven't figured out that.
Okay,
but
so I'm
lower New
from
York.
Geneseo, the Geneseo
been-
area.
Oh, I'm in the New York metropolitan area, but I've been here 20 years in Charlotte. So
Okay.
we have a lot of upstate people who relocated here because of the weather. So except for today. Okay, I think everyone has introduced themselves. So Jeremy, did you introduce yourself? I forgot.
Not yet, but I'm Jeremy Lytle. I am an adult services librarian at the Allegra Westbrooks Library off of Beatties Ford Road here in Charlotte. I'll be talking later on, and I am so glad to be here.
Okay, thank you so much. So let me open up. I don't know why it's not there anymore. Let me open up the presentation and we'll get started. Feel free to, kind of ask questions during the presentation. It's pretty interactive. So, it's almost 6 o'clock. We'll probably go for like an hour. And then Jeremy will spend the last half hour talking about the resources. Okay. So let me just open this up and we'll get going. Okay. So let me share this screen. I had it, now I don't have it. Okay, bear with me. Okay, here we go. This should work now. Okay, here we go. Okay, everyone can see this? Let's make this a little bit bigger. I don't know why this is small. Why is this so small? Okay, hold on a minute. Let me shut these down. I got too many of these open. Do you see this large or small? I can't.
It's large. Yeah, we're seeing your browser window, but this slide is large in the middle.
Okay, I guess I could do that. Oh, no. That's not right. Okay, you can see the browser.
There we go.
Okay, great. Let me just stick this to the side here, all you people. I'm a little technically challenged today. I don't know why, but okay, I'm just gonna stick this up here. Okay, so this gets started. Again, this is session 1, startup basics, simple steps for starting your business. We do have other sessions that we used to do. Really goes from like 2 to 5, which is like product of, coming up with the concept, and then we talk about business plan, financials, etc. But I don't know, for some reason, we didn't really get a lot of interest in those, only because it's not free. But we do have a lot of recorded sessions, so if you're interested in those, I could direct you to the other sessions, okay? Because they take a deeper dive into starting your business. So SCORE, if you're not familiar with them, maybe you are. If you have a mentor already, if you don't, I recommend you reaching out to your local chapter. It is free. So a lot of times our mentors, before they kind of start working with you, they'll ask you to take this course, and then go from there. So I'm part of the local chapter in Charlotte. We cover a lot of counties. I've been doing this for about 4 years. I was in between careers. Actually, I owned a small business. I owned a franchise in education, a tutoring company, for about 9.5 years. So I know what it's like to start a business. So a franchise is a little bit different. And now I am an entrepreneur again. I am a real estate agent in North and South Carolina. And I started that about 2.5 years ago. And I work for Keller Williams, which is a large real estate firm, and I really like it. A little different, but again, you're building your business. It's all I had a service-based business before, and this certainly is as well. And I learned a lot from my other business. It's all about building relationships, both businesses. But obviously, it's a little bit different because people are buying houses. Like it's a very large investment versus tutoring. So SCORE has a partnership with Truist. If you're not familiar with Truist, they were merged. They're a large bank. I think they're the 6th largest. It's headquartered in Charlotte. It was a merger between SunTrust and BB&T. SunTrust is Atlanta-based, and BB&T was Winston-Salem, and they merged a few years ago. And they moved their headquarters to Charlotte. So we have a partnership with them. Next, again, a lot of us as volunteers, we've been through in the corporate world for experience. We do the seminars and workshops and the free mentoring, one-on-one. I started working with SCORE during COVID, so we kind of did everything over the phone or Zoom, email, etc. I think now I haven't been able to do as much mentoring since I started my new career full time. But if you're local, it is kind of nice to meet face to face. Again, if you're not familiar with SCORE, you can go to score.org, and this is the local chapter for Charlotte. There's a lot of resources for small businesses. If you're in New Mexico, there's I don't know, where are you again? New Mexico?
Santa Fe.
Oh, yeah. So I'm assuming there's a local chapter there and in the Rochester area. So you could go to those local websites, but a lot of the information is pretty much the same. Okay. Like I mentioned, this is session 1. So we do the one-on-one mentoring, and then what's helpful is to kind of, whether you go through these sessions or not, these are things that your mentor can help you with. Okay. So we're talking about basics right now. And then, like I said, there's 4 other sessions: business concept, marketing, financial matters, and funding the business, right? If you're going to borrow money, etc. And so at the point of the business concept, that's kind of where you're going to figure out whether you're going to go with that concept. It's really a go, no go decision. If you're going to move on, then the next steps with your mentor is really to build that business plan. And there are resources online for the business plan. So if you need a template, if you don't find it, you can reach out to me. I can send you a template, or you can ask your local chapter. Has anyone worked with a business plan before?
I have.
I'm in the process of doing one right now with my mentor.
Okay, great. It's a little bit, it's a document that, is always changing. It's not a static thing, right? You have to relook at it and update it all the time. And then session 3, I won't say session, but also once you develop your business plan, you got to develop a marketing plan. In your business plan, you're going to talk about your marketing, but then this is a deeper dive into your marketing. Financials, really important. That's part of your business plan, but just in general, I don't know if anyone's, obviously not everyone has a financial background or accounting background. I do. So for me, that part was, you need to understand how your business is doing. You need to do a profit and loss statement. This is my revenue. These are my expenses, my net profit, hopefully not a loss, and balance sheet. These are my assets. These are my liabilities. This is my, shareholder equity, which is the difference. That's really important. A lot of people just don't do, in a lot of cases, if you're, for me, I was working for a franchise. I had to report monthly my numbers because that's how they figured out how much royalties they were going to get. But you're going to need it for your file taxes anyway. So you're going to need to, whether you use QuickBooks or some other software to do your accounting. A lot of people don't use it, but you could still track it another way, like on an Excel spreadsheet. But you definitely need, a way to do your accounting and produce financial statements and cash flow too. I'll go into it a little bit, but there's a deeper dive later on, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions about that. And then session 5 is, figure out, well, now I need capital to start my business. Am I gonna, borrow from a bank, a small business loan, SBA? Am I gonna use my savings? A lot of people dig into their retirement money, which you can. There's a different way of doing it where you don't get penalized for taking money out of that. So there's a lot of different options. Okay. So any questions on that? Okay. Just moving on to the next. We're going to talk about startup basics. What you're going to learn today. We're going to talk about some benefits. We're going to talk about myths and realities of owning your own business, some critical success factors. What are your options for starting a business, different components of business ownership, a little bit of the legal aspects, some basics of business plan. The end is kind of a self-assessment. We're not going to go through that in detail, but if you want to, take a screenshot of it, you can kind of do that on your own. We do not share this anymore. We used to, and the recording, you can actually go, I think it's on YouTube, where you can see, I think you can see recordings of old sessions. So, talking about what's the benefit of this workshop, we're going to help you develop, in a sense, your feasibility plan, take you through the whole decision-making process, provide you information to help you make a go or no-go decision, and then have the core information to help you complete a business plan for bankers and investors. So that's another reason why you need a business plan. If you're starting your own business from scratch, obviously you got to come up with projections and forecasts and all that. It's a little harder to get a loan, if you don't have any history. If you're taking on an existing business, that's a little bit different, right? There's some history there. And then we'll give you some key directions so you can figure out how to get started. Okay. So let's just talk about some myths. I don't know if I believe this one either, but as an entrepreneur, I do believe this. You won't have to work that hard or put in such long hours. I think some people think they can start a business and do it part-time and maybe do something else. You could do part-time if you're not the owner of the business, right? But as the owner of a business, you're accountable, to customers, to vendors, whoever else. And when someone needs to call about something, they're going to typically call you. There are some businesses that you're kind of an absentee owner, and like franchises and stuff. But in general, you know, if I don't like a service oriented business, I don't have a cash register sitting there for people to just come in and buy something. I got to be out there with the real estate business. Definitely, I need to work my sphere of influence. You know, when I get leads, I need to follow up. You know, I can't just sit back and put my feet up on the table. It just doesn't work that way. Myth 2 is my product or service is unique and there's no competition. That's usually not the case. And so I think as part of you may have something similar, but you may have a unique value proposition. When you're doing your business plan, you definitely want to do a competitive analysis. So if you're opening up an ice cream store or whatever, you want to see, well, you know, there's other, so you're not opening a franchise, but you want to look at other ones in the area, maybe look at what their prices are, you know, what you have a premium product or not. So that's really important to do. Because a lot of products and services can be replicated. There's no barriers to entry. So, you know, if you ever watch Shark Tank, which I do, that's something that always comes up. I think Mr. Wonderful says, oh, you know, this is something that could be replicated by the big companies, et cetera. In terms of number 3 is really the financial part. You can deduct everything and then you don't have to pay taxes. Well, that's not true. You can't deduct. I mean, there are certain expenses, of course, but your goal is to make a profit so that you can walk away with money. So therefore, you know, right, that's the goal. You may not make money in your first year and a half, but you know, the goal is you'll have some fixed expenses and just some one-time expenses, but ultimately, you know, depending on how your business is, the type of legal organization form it is, and we'll go through that, whether it's sole proprietorship or an LLC or a partnership. You know, the way the tax return is completed is different, and there are ways to, if you are a sole proprietorship, you know, there's self-employment tax, and if you're LLC, there won't be. And so I'll go through that briefly. As a business owner, you won't have a boss. Well, you're kind of your own boss, but part of the thing is if you have people working for you. I know for me, I had tutors who were 1099s. It was really hard to control it because they were very part-time. They didn't have set hours. They determined which clients they wanted to take over. You know, they didn't get involved really with the day-to-day business. And that's why they like to work for me, because they just tutored and I paid them. So, you know, the goal is, as a business owner, you know, at some point, and I guess it was really hard for me because I'm a little controlling, you don't want to necessarily be, if you know what I mean, you don't want to be in the business, you want to be on the business, if you know what I'm saying. If you get into the nitty gritty details, like if numbers aren't good for you, even if they are, you're going to hire an accountant. I mean, that's, you know, you don't want to be sitting there all day doing your entries and all that. I mean, I did it at the very beginning because I just wanted to understand it. Then I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So it's kind of a little crazy. But yeah, I mean, you know, you're your own boss. Myth 5, business owners get to do whatever they want to do. I mean, to a certain extent, but ultimately, you know, if you're running a franchise like I did, there were certain protocols and systems I had to use. You know, I mean, I was an independent owner of a franchise, but ultimately, you know, there was the franchisor that, in a sense, I was kind of reporting to. Okay. Okay. So proper planning is key. So this is just telling you about percent of new businesses after 2 years. Like 3/4 of them with 2+. That's actually an interesting stat. I didn't see this one. New businesses that have 2+ employees after 2 years. 3/4 are successful and 1/4 of them, you know, fail. And that's a you know, Bureau of Labor stats. I think that's pretty high. I thought more businesses failed than not. So, but this is what it says. Are you surprised by this number? Anybody?
Yes, I
Yes.
thought it would have been opposite.
Me too. I think the slide's right. Okay. Well, that's a good thing. Okay, so I guess after the first 2 years, people may still be in business. And then, after 5 years, it's like 50-50. And then I bet you, I don't know if that's after 10 years. So I guess, maybe the first 2 years, people are operating, maybe, that you may not make money, you may break even. And I guess that's the point where people feel like, all right, either I can do this or I can't do this, right? When I bought my business, I signed, it's a little different. I signed a 10-year franchise agreement. And a lot of for a franchise, depending on what the cost is to get in, mine wasn't high costs because I didn't have a brick and mortar and things like that. I didn't have employees, so I didn't have to pay like payroll taxes. But people think they're going to make tons of money in the first 2 years. They're going to make the same money they made in corporate salary. Well, it's really not going to happen unless you buy a business that's already operating, it's turnkey and things like that. But if you're starting from scratch, it's definitely going to take time. And then some of the critical success factors for the business. Sometimes you need to have the experience in the field or education in that field. I mean, I don't think it's as necessary. I'm not a teacher. I have a strong business background, so I didn't need to know how to tutor in order to do this business. I need to hire the experts. So it depends on what the business is. Obviously, kind of obvious, strong work ethic, effective time management. And these are things you do every day in your personal life too, right? Ability to manage, multitask, willingness to ask for help, take advice. That's really important. Obviously, whether it's a mentor from SCORE, or you have a friend, or somebody who owns their own business, whatever it is, a lot of us have mentors in our careers. So someone that you look up to, somebody, you can bounce ideas off of. That's really, you're not in this alone. So, if you need help, raise your hand. Okay. And obviously, you need the capital to get things going, and you need to have a reserve too, depending on, during COVID, a lot of businesses were hurt. There were loans you can get from the government, which they were grants, whatever, you didn't have to pay back and stuff like that to be able to cover your payroll. They're not offering that right now, unless we have another pandemic. Again, when talking about financial resources up front, depending on your business, you're going to need to purchase tools and equipment. If you have a brick and mortar, there'll be some leasehold improvements depending on what you do. If you have to, build it from scratch, or you have to buy things that you might lease for the business. You may have to there's licenses and permits, etc. It depends on the county. Mecklenburg County, we used to have to have a license for a business every year. We had to renew it. We don't have to do that anymore. So that kind of for Meck County. Okay. Professional fees. You buy an existing business, you're gonna, there's gonna be a purchase agreement between you and the seller. I would definitely work with an attorney on that. It's a big, investment you're making. You want to just make sure the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. And if, I would recommend working, with an attorney, and they'll probably have an attorney too. It's not going to be something you're going to use day to day. But if you got sued or something like that, you need professionals, lawyer, accountant, maybe, those are the two. Accountant, you're going to use more frequently, lawyer, hopefully not that often. I mean, I used an attorney, even though there was a standard agreement from the franchise that I had to review and sign. They don't want to make changes to it. I still had an attorney review it, and he had questions, and, they did an addendum. And then when I sold the business, which I did in 2020, my attorney was involved, and, we did a closing just like, a real estate transaction. So, okay. So some of the financial considerations, you need to consider if this is going to be your full-time job or business, you got to figure out, how am I going to live if I'm not getting a steady salary anymore? You got to figure out your monthly cost of living, if you have a mortgage, a car payment, food, etc. Other areas where you can cut back, luxuries like vacation, maybe you don't need that fancy car anymore, etc. What kind of debt do you have? I mean, mortgage debt's not terrible, but if you have a lot of credit card debt, you may want to kind of pay that off a little bit. You don't want to be, that's personal stuff, right? How much do you have in your savings account? You have friends and family that are going to help you with the business, invest in it. And, how much do you need to cover, like, up to 6 to 12 months of your expenses in case something happens, right? But most companies, the most important thing, if you have employees, you gotta make payroll regardless of whether you're losing money or not. Otherwise, you're gonna shut down. But if your employees are working, you got to pay them, right? If you have a business with no employees, well, you're just paying yourself, so that's different. Okay, so next we're going to talk about options about starting a business, different ways and advantages and disadvantages. So we'll talk about the advantages first. So when you're starting a brand new business from scratch, you're not hampered by previous reputation or technology of an existing business. So you're doing it from scratch, and you don't have to follow a map. You're figuring out this on your own. You obviously you choose your location, your name, your logo. You'll build your own relationships. And basically, with starting a new business, you have a clean plate, right? And you're gonna part of your business plan is kind of figure out all of this, right? What is your business going to be? What's your target market and things like that. Disadvantages, you got to build the relationships. You have no existing customer base. When you sell a business, like a service business, like I sold my business, really, I don't really have any assets as a service business. I mean, I didn't have a brick and mortar. My assets were really my customer list. I mean, that's what they were buying. So it's worth something. It's very hard to value a service-oriented business. It is. It's riskier. There's no proven history. And again, like I mentioned, it's harder to get financing because banks don't see any history, behind the business. You're kind of they're taking a chance on you. They don't really, that you're just coming up with projections and you don't have the real numbers yet, right? Okay. So that's starting a new business. Is anyone here thinking of buying an existing business? Hello?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Anybody in here thinking about that?
No.
Okay. Well, let's go over really quickly. I mean, it's kind of the opposite of a new business. You have established customers. The business, a known quality, a known quantity. You could review the financials of the business that you're going to buy. Obviously it has a track record, so it's easier to obtain financing. Disadvantages are, a lot of times people take over a business. I had a gentleman that bought my business, and he bought it during, I didn't even think I was going to sell it during COVID, but I did. He bought it during COVID. It's not a great time because, my business was in-person tutoring. We couldn't really do that anymore during COVID. And then kids were doing online learning, and so they didn't necessarily want online tutoring. But even without that, he really wasn't working the business. So you could take a really good business and someone buys it and they can run it into the ground. And that's really what happened. A year later, he wanted to sell it. He couldn't sell it because he had no revenue. They're not going to look at my business anymore because it's, I sold it. So, you have to watch out. So a lot of restaurants go through this, they sell, they buy the business and they think it's going to run on its own and they don't do it the same way or whatever. And you could run the business out of business. So, some disadvantages are, obviously, maybe that business already has a poor reputation. They're the customers are more loyal to the previous owner. the reputation is going to come into place. Is the inventory obsolete? And are you going to have any, if you take over their employees, you're going to have any issues with that? So like I said, there's no guarantee that success will continue, but, you're not starting from scratch. So it's a little bit easier, but you also have to be careful that you're not totally relying, if there are some issues with the existing business, you may have to fix them, right, to be successful. I won't really go into this, but I think I mentioned the franchise. Again, with franchise, you're buying into an existing system. So there's a lot of other franchisees out there. Like we had, I don't know, we grew it to like 300. So, we had certain processes and ways to do things, and we were able to share best practices and things like that. And you basically have a brand behind you. Let's say it's, I don't know, I'll just use, people are familiar with Molly Maids, let's say. A lot of people know who they are. Just certain things people recognize, the name, and so it gives you a little bit of clout, right? And you get some help, from corporate. I won't go into it. I had a somewhat positive experience, but there definitely were some negatives. Again, sometimes you're not making your own decisions. They're telling you what to do. With a franchise, you're paying royalties and upfront fees. So they're getting percentage of your revenue. And then you have a binding contract that limits your exit options. You could sell it before your 10-year mark. But if you can't, you're kind of stuck with the contract until it expires. Okay. And then if the franchise is going through problems, it's going to impact you. Okay. In terms of, a lot of people are in this situation. In terms of people who want to start a business, is it going to be home-based, remote? Or are you opening up a location? Is everyone doing home-based?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak besides Everett?
Yes, hesitantly. Mine will not be to where you would eat because it is a food product. However, it is not. So that kind of makes mine kind of iffy as far as license and permit wise.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask, as far as, I know it's not listed here, just curiosity, cottage laws.
What type of laws?
Cottage. I think it was called like a cottage laws, as far as things that you're able to make within the home to sell food base wise. But I wasn't too aware of that as far as cottage based laws. But majority mine would not be for you to eat. You can, but I'm trying to go along the lines as far as to prevent a lot of red tape to where you can't eat it.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with that. That would be something you probably would need to speak to an attorney about. I'm not as familiar with that. I never heard the expression either. So
Well, I mean, North Carolina does have
Yeah.
cottage laws, and you can do a home-based food business. I mean, you've got to go through an application process, an inspection. So there is a process in place, and I believe you're in North Carolina, Charlotte.
Correct.
There's a process in place in North Carolina where cottage laws applies. You've just got to go through and apply for it and go through the inspections, etc.
right.
Okay.
Yep. So again, so home-based businesses, I mean, you have low overhead, obviously working from home, a little bit more flexibility. You can hire remote employees, depending on what the job role is. Disadvantages could be some of these, like you said, cottage laws. Do you have any zoning or deed restrictions? Do you live in a neighborhood where the HOA, let's say you have I don't know, whatever, like a cleaning business, and you have a truck that's branded, they may not let you, have it on the driveway. You may have to garage it, things like that. And so that, also from from work standpoint, working from home is sometimes isolating, and you may have distractions and things like that. Okay. When I had, my business was home based, but I'm a people person, and I really felt more motivated when I was with other people, even, not necessarily the same business, but I didn't do it day to day, but I used you know, Regis, which, you know, they have, you can rent office space, different companies. I just had a plan where I can work in their lounge, you know, or once a week I could use an office, or if I had a meeting, I can rent a conference room. So, you know, that was good for me. Advantages and disadvantages. I'm not going to really go into no nonprofit. No one's doing that, are they? I'm gonna skip over that. Nonprofit. Okay. Anyone here looking to do an e-commerce business online?
Yes, I am.
And what business is that again, Ray?
Not sure, but it might be garment clothing. I have some friends that live overseas, and they kind of
Okay.
talked me into it. So that's why I want to get all the information I can before I decide if I want to go that route.
Okay. Very good. Just give me 1 second. I gotta plug in my computer since I'm losing the juice here. So okay. Sorry about that. So in terms of you know, online businesses, obviously, you know, you have lower startup costs. We know people shop online, you know, for certain services, right? They're always, I mean, that's how my business was in terms of the marketing was more online. You know, people are looking for a tutor, they're going to go to Google and they're going to type math tutor, etc. So, you know, in terms of my marketing, you know, I had to buy like Google Words and things like that. And you can expand your geographic reach. It could be national, international, depending on what you're selling. Um, and then people, you know, if you have a shopping portal, if they're going to buy things online, then they could do that anytime, right? 24/7. But disadvantages, there are low barriers to entry. It's a lot more, it's easier to start an online business. So there's going to be more competition. You're not really having that personal contact with the customers, so you might end up with more complaints. You never know, or returns. I guess consumers have a higher expectation when they're buying products, you know, online. Okay. So let's talk about the components of owning a business. Okay. This kind of goes back to being your own boss, right? And being basically, you know, when you're your own boss, you kind of wear a lot of hats. At some point, you want to take off some of those hats. Um, so you know, there are different functions in a business. I mean, obviously, you have your CEO, and if you're lucky enough to have it, someone your kind of right hand person, which most people don't have. You have an admin, or you know, kind of a personal assistant, I'll say. Um, Oops. And then, like I said, there are different functions within the business. I mean, you got your accounting part, accounting where you know, you're determining how whether you're making a profit or not, and day-to-day bookkeeping. Really, I call it bookkeeping because I would recommend a bookkeeper versus an accountant. You're going to work with really more at the end of the year for tax season. You know, your CPA is not going to do your bookkeeping for you. Then it's depending on the business. I mean, human resources, I hired all my own tutors. I didn't hire someone to, you know, interview tutors. Depends on the business. I was going to buy a healthcare business, you know, in-home care. I wasn't competent to hire people who had you know, say nursing background who, you know, you would have to hire an expert. We want to make sure you're hiring the right people, right? And then there's the marketing component. You know, sales, obviously, that's a direct you know, what the marketing drives sales, and then dealing with the customers. If you're selling products, you know, fulfilling those, production, et cetera. And then depending on the business, it's technology. And then if you have a large facility, you know, it's managing those facilities. You know, these are probably more related to some of these pieces are for large companies. You know, in most cases, if you're a small business, you're going to be doing kind of a lot of this on your own, at least at the beginning, and then you're going to need some help. So really what I think is, like, for me, I kind of wanted to learn all the aspects of my business, and then you kind of pick the ones that you like to do. If you love to be out there and meeting the customer and doing sales, then do it. If you're not comfortable with that, then hire someone to do it. You know, you tend to put off the things you don't like to do, right? Question? I heard somebody say something. No questions? Okay. All right. So a little bit with marketing. Again, it's all about, you know, you want to create and promote your image and build your brand, especially if you're brand new. You want to determine what are the strategies used to create a desire to purchase. You know, is there a market for that, right? I don't know. I can't think of the top of my head, but you know, if you go on Shark Tank, they have all these crazy people come in with these crazy businesses. You know, the question is, it's a very small niche, and like, how are we going to grow it? You know, and will your product or services, you know, it's not going to sell on its own. You need to get it out there, whether you're doing it online, whether you're in a, you know, in a storefront, or you're selling it at an event, whatever that might be. Okay. Branding, that's really important. You want to start to get, you know, there's the name recognition, you know, market identity, you know, the qualification of your product or service is going to be really important. You know, whatever you're selling, is it something that stands out from everyone else? Okay. And advertising, you know, it depends. I mean, a lot of small business aren't going to spend a lot of money on advertising. A lot of it is word of mouth, right? Which is cheaper than anything. Like guerrilla marketing, you know, kind of being out there, networking. I just went. I haven't joined them, but there's a networking group called BNI, which is Business Network International. And I was a guest this morning, and that was an opportunity for me to, you know, do an elevator speech about my business. And there's all different businesses there, and a lot of people kind of share some of their pains, and this is helpful. You're not in this alone, but it kind of gets your name out there and helps promote your business. You know, you help them, they help you. You know, refer customers. So, you know, in terms of marketing, you don't want to spend more than 10% of your expenses of your revenue on marketing, you know, because it can get very expensive. If you're doing certain marketing and it's not producing results, that's not a good thing. You're going to try all different things, right? But at some point, you know, you're going to figure out what works, and you're going to spend the money on that versus spending it everywhere else.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
As far as marketing, one of my strategy was I was going to hand out flyers. That's still pretty a good thing to do, hand out flyers.
What is the business again? I'm sorry.
Garment making.
Oh.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's you mean just go to like a supermarket and stand out there, or put it on windshields?
Supermarket, a mall, strip mall, you know, just pass out flyers as, you know, people are, you know.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't seem to be an expensive thing. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, you may pass it out, people might throw it out. You know, it's like, you know, you get those coupons in the mail. I forgot what they're called. You know, you know what I'm talking about? You get the package.
Right.
You could do that, but that can get costly too. You know, I forgot the name of the company that does that. You know what I'm talking about,
right? I know what you're talking about, though. Yes.
The value pack. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's another thing you can do, because they mail them out for you, right? You don't have to do that, but that can get costly, right? And you return, you know, how many leads you're going to get from that, you just don't know. But if you could do something like that just to get it out there, sure.
Okay.
You'll try it out. If it doesn't work, you won't do it again, right? So you need to track that, though. You need to figure out, like, you know, you need to ask people, how did you find out about my business? you want to know that if it's a
Right.
flyer, then hopefully that's working. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just one of my ways of communicating with the with the customers. So
Yeah.
that's what
Sure. Sure. Anything else? Any other questions?
that's about it for me.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. So now we're going to talk about sales a little bit. Obviously, marketing does drive sales, right? And so if you're getting leads, or people are reaching out to you, then the goal is to, sell them something, right? So, you got to connect with customers, you got to find your prospects, you got to build a database of customers. Whether that's an Excel spreadsheet or you use Salesforce or some CRM system. Like I use something called Follow Up Boss. Basically, I put all my contacts in there, my leads. Building a database of information, taking notes, because not everyone's going to buy from you right away, but they're a potential customer, and so you want to build that up, and you're going to do obviously following up and whatever. I mean, it's a way. Otherwise, you can't track it. You're not going to remember. Even having it in my database, if I don't put some notes in there, I'm never going to remember who's who, right? So, and that's a way. Once you build your database, you can do email campaigns, which is another way, which is not costly, or you can use one of these email marketing companies to do that. Things like that. That helps.
I have a question.
Yep.
Okay, and this may be discussed further along in the other courses.
Okay.
And I know there's no such thing as a stupid question, but
no stupid questions.
how do you find sales? How do you find sales? Okay, and I'll use myself for an example. With me making confectionate items, chocolate items,
Yep.
how do you find someone? How do you get out there to get a customer? What do you do? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're making. Well, you need to be out. I mean, I don't know. You need to do some events, I would say. Whether you have a booth at a fair, let's say, local fair. I mean, I'm just trying to think how do people going to, find out they want to buy stuff.
And if I can interject, that's
Yeah.
something that I'll talk about as well, is how you we've got a database that you can access through the library, where you can find like where people are spending money on specific types of products. So that would let you know what areas to target.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's good. Yeah. I mean, doing an online business, if you're going to do some online marketing, that's how people are going to find you, right? You may want to partner, I don't know, with caterers, right? I mean, there's different ways to sell your product. And that's really something you need to brainstorm and kind of put that in your business plan. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but there's definitely different ways that you can get to the end customer. You may, give out free samples.
Okay. I wondered that. I didn't know if that could like not be a good thing to give out samples, but in my situation, that could be the best route to go as far as word of mouth or things.
Yeah.
So I was just curious about that. Okay, thank you.
I mean, I don't know if I'm just thinking top of my head. I mean, I don't think you can necessarily do that at a shopping mall, just probably not allowed to, but I would say like look at some food fairs out there, that would be a great place to get people, even if you didn't have a booth. I think you could just walk around and like give out samples of your chocolates and things like that. So, a lot of outdoor. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
If I could interject as well, the first thing I thought of was like wedding conferences.
Yeah.
Or things like that, some specialty niches. It depends how big you want to go. You could even go with people who put on conferences, because I know a lot of times they give you gift bags and things with fun stuff.
Sure. Yep, that's a good one. Yeah, and that's part of your business plan. Like, who are you targeting, right? Who is your end customer? Is it just someone like myself who likes chocolate? Or like you said, I mean, are you going to sell to, wedding planners or whatever, or catering halls or things like that? So that's something you need to figure out as part of your business plan. Or, do you have like a certain niche that you're trying to, target? Who's buying chocolate in the is it the mother, is the father, is the kids, things like that? Who's the decision maker? I think everyone is when it comes to chocolate, right? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Next, let me just go down. Where are we? What time is 6:42? Okay. And then, this is really the skills, like we talked about. If you're not really feeling comfortable with financial stuff, you may want to, take a course to kind of improve your skills in that area. Marketing, you said, or sales, you don't really know how to do you don't understand marketing. Maybe take a very basic marketing one-on-one class, like you don't have to pay for something, you can go online and learn about it. There are definitely YouTube videos and things like that. There's a lot of resources out there. And are there certain things that don't fit your skills? Like I said, should you hire employees who take on a partner, outsource these tasks? Like I said, I mean, the thing that I think of top of my head, especially for most businesses, is if you're not comfortable keeping track of your business, hire a bookkeeper, hire someone that's doing data input or whatever that might be. Okay. But even if there are areas that you're skilled at, you just don't have the time to handle everything, right? You won't, as your business grows. The beginning probably, but what parts of the business are most important to you, and which will you focus on, and which will you delegate, right? Like I said. So was it Jill with the chocolate?
Yes.
Okay, so Jill, I'm assuming who's making the chocolate? You?
Yes, I'm a one team, just
Okay.
one person.
Right. So, eventually you'll have a warehouse, right? But you're going to make the chocolate. That's what you like to do, I'm assuming, right? So,
Yeah.
but then you may not feel comfortable, doing the sale component, right? You may want to have someone who's going out there and meeting with people and sampling chocolate, or going to conferences or whatever, right? At some point, if that's not your wheelhouse, right? And so that's when you may not do that right away, but that might be something you do in the future as the business grows. I mean, you're not going to hire someone unless you're making money, right? So that's, you're not ready to do that, probably do that yet. So that's why you have to learn a little bit of everything about the business. And then at some point, if you're able to, depending on how small or big your business is, will determine whether, you're ready to hire someone. Like for my business, I was trying to make it more turnkey. So I was doing the consultations with the parents. I would go to their homes. So I did sales basically. I initially hired the tutors and matched them with students. And then I said, you know what, I need some help with that. So I hired what we call a tutor coordinator, and she would send out communications to tutors about an opportunity to tutor someone, and that was helpful. And then at one point I had someone helping me marketing, doing like social media and things like that. I didn't hire too many people. Now, at some point I figured to grow my business, it would be helpful to have another consultant, somebody meeting with the families as well as me, or me stepping away from that and really figuring out how to kind of, like I said, I don't necessarily want to be so much in my business, but on it, and kind of figure out how to get to the next level, whether that's buying another territory, maybe figuring out another revenue stream for my business. If you're so deep into it, it's just really hard to grow it. But you're not in a position to hire until you're at a certain level, of revenue. Because there are some people that go crazy and they hire all these staff at one time, and then they have to lay them off because they can't pay them. And they go overboard. Because a lot of people that you hire, like if you hire an admin, that's total expense. They're not helping you grow your revenue, right? You hire a salesperson, the goal is for them to help you drive sales, right? So, and marketing, obviously that's supposed to drive sales, but if you're not getting your return on your investment, you hire a marketing person, then that's not going to work out either, so that's really important. again, critical factors, obviously we know about location. I mean, I'm assuming the chocolate business, I don't know how competitive it is. There's probably a lot of people that do that, right? Confectionery stuff. You know, I think the food business is somewhat competitive. You know, so what's your target market? Who's your competition? How are you going to distribute the service or product? You know, how are you going to merchandise it, et cetera? Okay. And then price, right? You got to price your service or your product, right? Definitely look at the competition. Are you what's your cost to produce the product? Then you're gonna have a markup. So if it costs you $10, you're gonna sell it for 15 or 20, right? What's your margin's gonna be? You know, maybe your prices are too high. So you'll figure that out based on whether consumers think you're, maybe are like telling you I'm not gonna buy it, it's too expensive, right? And then obviously depending on your business, I mean, credit terms and discount. I mean, I don't think in the chocolate business you're going to have people who pay you over time. They're going to buy it and that's it, right? Depending on the size of what the business is or the size of the transaction. Like for me, I didn't do pay as you go tutoring. In other words, like a lot of times you hire your private tutor, you pay them, your child goes for an hour, 2 hours, and you write out a check for that. I didn't do it that way because I had so many tutors out there. They bought hours up front. So they bought, I don't know, to say 20 hours of tutoring. Some of them paid for those 20 hours up front, even though I hadn't serviced them yet, almost like paying tuition. Some of them, I let them pay it out over 3 months or 6 months, depending on the package. So, a lot of times I had their credit card and file and they would charge it on a monthly basis. So, that's all going to depend on your business. Usually with a product, you're not going to you tend not to do that. Mine was service oriented and I really, wasn't paying my tutors until they actually tutored. So, it worked a little bit different. So I was willing to kind of let them spread out the payments. Okay. Other critical factors, I think a lot of this we talked about, your competition. You're going to want to compare, the size of their operation, their pricing, the services, your strengths there and the weaknesses, look at both. You know what? I mean, I've been, you kind of like mystery shop if it's a brick and mortar, I mean, if you buy an ice cream store, I'd probably go into Ben and Jerry's and see what their prices are, and you can, you can be a customer. Or if it's a service-oriented business, if you're starting a plumbing business, follow all the different plumbers and find out, what it would cost for an estimate, different things. I got to replace my water heater, whatever that is. So you're going to do some competitive. Now, if you don't feel comfortable calling them, have a friend do it. You need to do a little bit of that, kind of digging. So that's part of the competitive analysis that you're doing. Okay, so now we'll talk a little bit about the legal components and different forms of business organizations. I think I mentioned this a little bit up front. So there are kind of 5 different ways to organize your business, and all of them have advantages and disadvantages. And when it comes to forming your business, I would get advice from a lawyer and/or accountant what they think would work best for you. Okay. Does anyone have a question there? Okay, I heard some background stuff. Okay, so the simplest form of business is a sole proprietor. And basically, you own the business. It's Jill Pride is owner. And at the end of the year, you have X amount of, your net profit is, you have revenue, you have expenses, you have to file a tax return. It's basically part of your, if you have any, let's say you're married and they work and they have a salary, it's going to be part of the same tax return. The thing with a sole proprietorship is that even though you don't have employees, you're going to have to pay self-employment tax to the government. You get tax, so you have your tax on your income, plus you have, self-employment tax on top of that. I think it's like 2.5%. I forgot, I haven't done it in a while. So there is a little bit of disadvantage. You might be paying more taxes as a sole proprietor. There might be certain expenses that you can't deduct. It is the easiest form of business. A lot of people start that way, and then they switch to another form of business that makes more sense. As a sole proprietor, Jill, hopefully this won't happen, but if I get sick from your chocolate, I could sue you.
Yes, I wanted to stay away from that and go more so LLC.
Right, I could sue you versus, and we'll talk about the other one. So I could sue you and all your personal assets are not protected, right? So that's a, I'm just kind of, that's an extreme example, but anything can happen. People are crazy, right? Or another company could sue you, right? You're copying them and you're not protected if you're a sole proprietor. You're being sued personally. Okay. Partnership, obviously you're in business with somebody else. So you're kind of splitting that responsibility, right? Or income. Limited liability company, which is called LLC, is probably the most common. My company, I set up as an LLC. It's very easy. I had a brand that was the company brand for the customers didn't know my LLC, but for tax purposes, I had an LLC. So let's say let's say my LLC was Andrew Dermack LLC, whatever it is, right? Or Tutoring LLC. So obviously you need to file with the Secretary of State of your state, let's say North Carolina. It's not very expensive to do. And you make sure you do a name search, come up with a name, you fill out a form, you pay, I forget what you pay, and you get approved for that name. And now you have your LLC, you'll get a tax ID and all that. And then every year in North Carolina, I know about it, you have to pay like $200 to renew it. You got to do a file, it's called a filing. You have to do a reporting of it, which is basically paying $200 for the same thing, unless things change. With an LLC, what I did, what my accountant recommended I do. Now with a limited liability company, Jill, if I got sick from your chocolate and I sued you, I'd be suing your LLC, not you. So I really can't sue you for your assets. I can't take your home away. But obviously, you can lose some of your business assets, right? I'm not suing I'm suing the company, not the individual. Okay. So limited liability, my accountant recommended that I be an LLC, but file my business tax-wise as an S corporation. Now, the reason why is, so you have to when you first file your taxes, you have to designate how you're going to file your taxes, and you have to get usually they'll approve. You have to get approved from the IRS, or at least tell them that's what you're doing. And so, that's important. You can change it, but that's going to be a little bit of a red flag. It's easier to go from a sole proprietorship to a limited liability than the other way around. Okay. So with an S, and I'm not going to talk C corporation because that's not going to be the case for most people for small businesses. The only way a C corporation would apply is if you are borrowing money from your retirement plan. If that's the case, then you're setting yourself up as a C corporation. S corporation. So I'm an LLC. My accountant's filing me as an S corp. Here are the benefits. I don't pay corporate taxes on my return. So I have to file a corporate return, but the net income of my or loss of my business flows through to my personal. Okay. So if I had a profit of $100,000, that $100,000 goes under, I'll just use other income on my personal return because the corporate rate might be a lot higher than the personal rate. Okay. You can't get taxed twice. Okay. So that's the advantage. I'm not paying self-employment tax like a sole proprietor. So my taxes are going to be a little bit lower. It becomes income like any other income, ordinary income, salaries, but I have to still file a tax return, a corporate return. But basically, I think for a franchise, I think it was North Carolina. I just paid like a $200, fee as a franchisee to the state of North Carolina. But everything flows through to your personal return. Okay. So I know it's a little confusing. I won't go, you don't have to worry about it. I would talk to your accountant. They could help you with that and figure out what's the best way, to, do your business. Now, for me, I had, with employees, you got to pay payroll taxes, right? You got to pay, Social Security and Medicare, and obviously taking taxes out and all that. For me, it didn't make sense for me to have employees because they were working part-time. I couldn't really tell them how to tutor. I couldn't direct them. I couldn't tell them how many hours they work. So it makes more sense to have them as 1099s. And with that, you know, I didn't have to take taxes out. I didn't have to pay payroll taxes and all that. I just had to give them a 1099 at the end of the tax year, and then they're responsible for filing their taxes. So depending on your business, you may want to think about that, whether you want to hire a contractor or an employee. Okay. So keep it simple. You know, it's a sole proprietor or partnership. If liability or taxation is a concern, then LLC or S corporation might be your best bet, but it's going to vary by the type of business that you have. Okay. So those are really the choices for a small business. I'm not going to get into this, depending, you know, because in most cases, unless you're, there's some of it, but you know, there's certain labor laws. If you have, like I said, if you have employees, you got to withhold Social Security and Medicare and things like that. And then, you know, you may have to file your, you know, quarterly. If you're paying people, there are requirements quarterly to file. You know, you have to file quarterly stuff to the state and things like that. So there's work to do if you have employees. And also you may have to pay for workman's comp depending on the business. Okay. And depending on the business, you know, if they're working full time, they may want benefits, and that's a whole other story, you know. So usually with small businesses, you're not going to get into that. It depends. You may have one full-time employee, you know, and maybe you'll pay benefits for them. I mean, you know, as an independent contractor owns a business, it's very expensive for me to have health insurance. When I bought my business, my wife was working corporate, so I had hers. Now I switched careers. My wife is kind of independent herself. Now we need to get insurance, so we kind of went through the marketplace because we needed, you know, we did it with private insurance, which, you know, could be more expensive, could not be, depending on what your income is. So there's insurance for businesses. Someone have a question? Different insurance you have to take into account: property, depending on what your business is, liability insurance. Obviously, if you're using a car for your business, you got auto insurance. If you have a business and someone falls on your property, you know, you should probably need umbrella policy. You know, like I said, workman comp if someone gets hurt. And then depending on whether you can do it, health. You know, most small businesses are not going to do health or life. People have business interruption insurance. Obviously, during COVID, that came in handy. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about business plan. And we're at 7 o'clock. I think we don't have that much more to go. I'm not here to rush you, so if anyone's concerned, we should be good. No, where am I now?
And
okay,
Andrew, since I'm at home, I'm on no time limit, so
okay.
take all the time yeah.
I'm hungry.
Normally, I have a hard deadline to get out of the branch, but since I'm at home today because of the weather, take all the time.
Where do you work? Oh, you work at the library?
Yeah, normally.
Okay, what is your name?
Oh, this is Jeremy.
Oh, Jeremy. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Sorry. Yeah, normally I have a hard deadline. I have to get out of there by
7:45.
but
okay.
Take all the time you need.
I appreciate that. Okay. And so the next thing we're going to talk about a little bit is some of the basics of a business plan. You want to have an objective view. It does become the foundation for planning your business. It's a really good management tool, and it communicates the owner's thoughts and ideas. It's really important. And you're going to use that as a roadmap, right? I mean, some people write a business plan. I'm probably one of the people that do that, and then you can never go back and look at it. You have to change it because you're just making assumptions, right? And then you may go in a different direction, and then you got to redo your financials and things like that. So it's a work, it's a working process document. It's for you. It might be something that a banker wants to look at, but in most cases, it's yours. It really will help guide you. Okay. So in a business plan, you have your executive summary, your business, then you talk about the business, you do financial forecasts, supporting data, you'll do marketing plan in there, maybe who, your target market, what type of marketing you're going to do, et cetera. There's all different components of it, but those are the main components of the business plan, is describing your business, showing how you're going to make money. Marketing plan, I don't know why it's not listed, but you need to have a marketing plan in there, very high level, and then you can dig down into the details and have a separate, marketing plan. Okay. We're not going to go into too much detail. Is anyone doing it? I think someone said someone's doing a plan. How do you find that process of putting together the business plan?
Oh, you're talking about, yeah, me, Ray. It's my first time. It's very difficult. A lot of research.
Yeah.
Like for one instance, revenue stream. I had to, come up with my revenue stream. Also,
Yeah.
let me see. Cost structure, value proposition.
Yeah.
Customer segments, channels, how I get my product out there, social media, word to mouth, business cards, flyers, promotional ads, things like that. So I'm deep in it right now. So
yeah, it is. It's kind of the bear. It is.
Yeah.
But when you get done, you'll be happy because, it's really, you look back and it's going to help you, because it's hard to have everything in your head.
Well, actually, when I first started, I was kind of taken back, but since I've been doing it now for about a week and doing my research, I'm starting to familiarize myself with terminologies and just how it works. This is how you put a plan together. And as I'm putting my plan together, I can see, okay, this is what I need. This is this is what I hope to gain from it. So it's coming together.
Yeah, and you kind of also, in your business plan, you can talk about what your vision statement is for the business. It's like I said, it's a roadmap, right? And you just kind of, the hardest part is the financials, definitely, when you're starting from scratch. I mean, how do you do them? You just got to make a lot of assumptions, right? That's hard.
Yeah.
I think I talked to you. Thank you. I think I talked to you about all this, about it's helpful to have a lawyer. You may have a financial advisor, a mentor, an accountant, obviously insurance agent if you have to buy insurance. These are things you have a lot in your day-to-day life anyway. That my accountant ended up, I used to always do my own taxes personally. I have a background. I'm a recovered CPA. And then my wife's like, you have no time to do this anymore. And if he's doing your business taxes, you might as well do your personal, because he needs to look at the big picture, right? So it's helpful. So anyway, this is, and you can take a screenshot of this, because we're almost there. This is the end. Okay. This is a quick self-assessment. The next page will indicate strengths and areas to work on with your mentor and other associates. So if you take a screenshot of this, you could do it afterwards. Just fill it in and score in the score. And I'll show you this on the next page, kind of give you a feeling what areas you need to work on, right? So these are the different, you should score it, right? Total score should not be more than 10. Assign points to indicate agreement, less if you do not agree. So these are the different topics. You have your idea of feasibility, market identification, implementation, funding, and personal readiness. So let's say the third one down, I know who my buyers are. If you don't, then low points, right? If you do, kind of higher. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 10. So, if you give it all ones, and you need to work on everything. So, so that's an exercise that you may want to do. I have, just a couple of things. I know what it will take to start my business. I understand what it'll take to obtain funding. I understand the challenges ahead. These are different things. Just so I'm going to leave it up here for a minute. So if you want to just take a picture of it, it's actually a good exercise to go through.
Well, I took a screenshot of it, so I have it.
Okay. I'll let everyone, I'll give you a minute just to do that, and then I'm going to introduce Jeremy. But before I do that, does anyone have any specific questions that I can answer? If not, because we don't have a lot of time, I can give you my email address in the chat, and you can always email me.
If you can, but I just have one quick question. Like I told you, my most of my manufacturing is going to be outsourced to Southeast Asia. So
Okay.
how would I be able to, I mean, as far as taxes and all that, how would I be able to do that? Just because all the machinery and everything, pretty much my partner already bought, he's living in Cambodia. He bought most of all that stuff, so I guess how would I go about using that on my taxes as part of my, a startup?
Where is the revenue being earned? Internationally?
Yes.
Yeah, that I can't answer that. I think you need to talk to your accountant, because I don't know the
Okay.
answer to that. I
Okay.
haven't dealt with a foreign. I mean, there is some revenue in the U.S. too.
Yeah, well, some will, but right now we started low key manufacturing in Cambodia,
Yeah.
Vietnam, and Thailand. To see how well it do before we introduce it to the U.S. and England and other places.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's no U.S. revenue right now then. I mean, that's all international.
Right.
And you don't have any type of legal entity set up in the U.S. right now?
Not at all. No.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's nothing in the U.S.
Nothing at all.
You're not going to pay taxes in the U.S. if you have nothing in the U.S. So it's gonna. I don't know. I mean, are you setting up is it a corporation? Is it an LLC? What is it?
LLC.
But it's not here.
Not yet. It won't be. Like I
Okay.
said, not yet. Not yet. Over
Okay.
there in Cambodia, things are a little bit different, so.
Well, what you'll do in the future is the U.S. LLC is going to be buying product from Cambodia.
Right.
Exactly.
That's going to be your cost. That will be your cost of the product. You turn around and sell it in the U.S. That differential, that's your margin that you'll pay taxes on.
Right, right. I mean, you don't have to purchase your whatever, your the purchasing doesn't have to be or made in the US. It could be made someplace else, right? I mean, that happens. It's very common, right? People have businesses and everything's made in China, right? So yeah. But if you're selling in the international, that's a different story. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions before we get Jeremy on?
I have one.
Yep.
With this assessment, do you feel that it would be better to do this with a mentor or someone with more experience? Just being more realistic, stating as far as, for an example.
I would do it on your own.
Okay.
It's just a quick exercise, and then go over it with your mentor and just kind of, explain why you gave yourself those numbers. But
Okay.
it's a very quick exercise, and maybe you can play around with it, but there's no right or wrong, right? It's something that's very personal, and you'll know when you're ready to start your business, right? There's going to be certain aspects that you want to make sure you're comfortable. Not everything, can't get everything can't be a 10, but you want to be at a point where the numbers are higher rather than lower, right? Because you don't want to just jump into something, right? So. Okay, well, I'm gonna let Jeremy. I just shared my my email address, and I think Jeremy, do we send out some of the handouts that you go over? I forgot.
Not usually, but
Okay.
I'll be dropping my email in a moment, and if anyone wants any of the
Okay.
handouts I have, which
Okay.
I'm not going to be sharing today because I'm at home on an iPad instead of at work on my big desktop.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be dropping my email, so I'm happy to send those out if you contact me.
Okay. Very good.
So
Well,
let me. Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna give you. I have to give you screen share ability. One shot. Let me see how I always forget how to do this. Bear with me. This is. don't know why I share this with you. I'm under.
Looks like I might already have.
Do you have a bill? Yeah, you might
Yeah.
already have the bill because you
Yeah,
went
I
on.
do.
Okay, great.
Um, So before I start, I'll start by just a quick apology. Normally, I'm at the library branch on a big desktop. I can share all the things, and it looks great. But because of the weather, the library's closed at 4 today, and so I had to run home. And my power tends to go out if anyone even glares at a transformer. So I don't trust it to stay on. So I'm on a cellular iPad. So I can't quite do everything I normally do. But let me go ahead and I'm going to share a PowerPoint as soon as Zoom counts down. And so you should all be able to see this PowerPoint now. Everyone see the library logo there?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So we're going to talk about resources that the library has for helping you start and grow your business. For those of you not in Mecklenburg County, check with your local library system, and they will have some of these. They might even have all of them. And then they might also have something better. Is the person who was in Santa Fe still here?
Yes.
Okay, well, during Andrew's presentation, I checked out their library. They actually have a business plan resource on their website that we used to have that I miss desperately because it's wonderful. But it's a great way to help jumpstart your business plan. But it's called Gale Business Plans. But check with your library system for that. And then go right ahead.
I thought that the way that business plans are being done now is the way that the gentleman whose last name is Rees, R-I-E-S, and I forget what it's called, but it's a one-page business plan. Of course, you have to do a financial plan, marketing, and all of that, but to get started, the idea today, as I understand it, is one page is enough to get up and go. So what do you know about that? Or what would you say in response to that?
That's the first I'm hearing of that. Most of the business plans I've looked at are more than one page. And I'll be sharing a resource that has a bunch of sample business plans from successful businesses. And all of those that I've looked at tend to be a bit longer than one page. Now, having a one-page kind of overview could certainly be helpful. Like I could definitely see that, but most of the time, you're probably going to need a little bit more detail than that. Has been my experience.
In 2011, I wrote a plan. It was over 30 pages and for a different business. And I had somebody, kind of go over it and make it, sound better. Not sound better, but just write better than I did. And then I hired a couple of people, part of the same one business, to go through it, and verify, everything like fact check, including the financials. And I'm going to look up the guy's name right now. It's Reese. I don't know why I can't think of things today.
Yeah, 30 sounds like a little long. Most of the ones I've seen are like 5 to 10 on average, but I wouldn't want to say that there's any definite right or wrong way on that.
Okay, it's called The Lean Startup, and it's by Eric Rees. But it's a big thing, and he's written additional books since then.
Yeah.
But like I said, I thought this was the going way to do it. And since the title is Business Startup Basics or something like that, I thought for sure we would be talking about this one-page plan. But anyway, go ahead.
I have, was that Sharon speaking? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I could send you, I could send to all the participants. I have a business plan that came through SCORE. I mean, it is comprehensive. It kind of goes through. There's a table. It's through Deluxe. I have a template. I have a template that I'm more than happy to share. and it just goes through. It has a table of contents, which is pretty. Basically, it has 34 pages. So doesn't mean your plan's going to be 34 pages, but it goes through the major components, a lot more detailed than what I told you. So it doesn't mean all these aspects are you're going to use, but I'm more than happy to share that with you. And also, there's a table of contents also that I can share. So is that, do you guys want that?
I think the
Yes.
SBA also
Yes.
has a
Yes.
one-page business plan, don't they?
Who does?
The SBA.
I'm not familiar with a one page. I don't know how you can get everything done in one page.
Anyway, I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like I said, it might, I could definitely see like an overview with the highlights and the important things, kind of like an executive summary.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Executive summary. Yep.
I
Yep.
could definitely see that being useful, but more than likely, you're going to need more than that for a lot of things.
Yeah,
We have some. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I was about to
We-
say my lean canvas plan is a 5-page.
Yeah, and the lean canvas is another one that I'm familiar
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
Okay, it seems that the point that I was wanting to make is it seems that at least some people think and have proven themselves correct that you don't have to go beyond that to start. So in other words, doing one of these knockdown drag out business plans can actually hold you up, right? I could have started that business back in 2011, and after I did 1,000 other things between then and 10 years later, I didn't think it was the right thing to do, not to mention it was a paper-based or dependent business. And with COVID, paper was sold and it ran out,
Yeah.
So it wasn't even a viable business. So there I wrote a 30-page plan and did all that other stuff, and I couldn't even start the business. And like the gentleman said early on, I mean, you have to prove that your product is sellable, that you really have a market, for your product. So if you don't get out there and give it a go, try it, you're just not going to know.
Yeah.
And why go through all of that? If you find you go to 2 or 3 or 5 places with your product or your service and no one buys it, or you talk to 50 people or on Nextdoor or something like that and ask, people, would they buy that product? And they all say no, it's probably not the best way to go. So think of something else to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, these are things that I've heard over the years because I've been nurturing the idea of, starting a business for quite a while.
There's no right or wrong. I mean,
Exactly.
obviously, if you can get your message out in 5 pages, that's fine. I mean, it depends on what the product or service is. If it's more simple, I mean, there's no right or wrong. It's as long as you can get across what you need to. You're not applying to college where they say the essay only has to be at least 500 words. I mean, whatever. So, if it's something, I did it. I agree. I mean, sometimes it gets really intense. It's like way too much information. You definitely have to have the financials. So that's at least 1 page, right? Is the numbers. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Again, I don't want to tell anyone that there's one right way. So yeah, if you're just starting out, it might well be shorter. But there's a lot that can go into a business plan. And again, we'll talk about some of the resources that we have for that. But did that answer your question?
My question or the gentleman's question prior?
Well, about the length of the business plan.
For sure, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I know that. Yeah, I know. I appreciate you, considering it and responding. Thank you.
So again, the resources that I'm going to talk about are specific to Charlotte-Mecklenburg. If you're not in the Mecklenburg County area, check with your local system. And they may have some of these. And if they don't, and they don't have anything similar, you're welcome to reach out to me if it's something quick or something I can generate right quickly. I'm happy to do that. And then if you find that you would like to access to these resources and you can't get them locally, visit cmlibrary.org, and you can apply for a virtual library card. There is an annual fee of $45, which is equivalent to the property taxes Mecklenburg County residents pay to support the library. But again, start with your local system, and they will likely have many, if not all of these. But here's how the library can help you with your business. Again, getting back to business plans, there's a lot that can go into that, a lot of statistics, a lot of data, and we can help you find it. Here's an example. The example they use in the PowerPoint here is if you're starting a pet supply store, what kind of things do you think you would need to know? And I apologize, I don't normally use the PowerPoint. I usually pull up the exact resources, but my tablet doesn't play too well with some of them. But how many people have pets? What percentage of people in Mecklenburg County have pets? If you don't have a pet, you probably have no use for a pet supply store. So you're wanting to look just at pet owners. So we have resources like the ABI Inform collection from ProQuest that allows you to get a wealth of information. Things like research reports, dissertations, SWOT analyses. We have the Dun and Bradstreet industry profiles in there as well. And then we have another one called Data Axle Reference Solutions. And this resource is actually, it's one of my favorite resources, honestly. At one point, it was not available statewide. Charlotte-Mecklenburg was one of the only libraries in the state to subscribe to it. And I literally had people coming in from all over the state to use it. We didn't have virtual library cards at that point. So I literally had people coming in from Asheville, I think someone from Raleigh, to use our computers in the branch to access this resource. But it allows you to generate lists of businesses that meet certain criteria, and you can plug in things like SIC codes, keywords, things like that. Within a certain geography, and you can define the geography in a bunch of different ways to generate lists of businesses. So, these are the example here is there are businesses already selling pet supplies. They found 269 at the time they built this PowerPoint. You can also use this to possibly find suppliers. So you can look up, who's making certain things or who provides certain things. You can also, on the residential side, use this to define an area and then generate a mailing list. We're actually getting ready to use this at the library to send out a mass mailer for some of our program flyers. This is half of what I was talking about earlier when I think it was Jill asked the question about, well, how do you find people to sell to?
Yes, thank you.
You can go into one of the databases I'm going to talk about in a minute and find an area where people are spending money on the type of product you're selling or the type of service, and then go back into Data Axle and define that area and generate a mailing list. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. If there's questions, I love questions because they help me know if I'm actually saying, what I think I'm saying. And then within these, you can click on an individual business name and get more details. The small businesses, there won't be a huge amount of detail in there, but the larger businesses, there's quite a bit. So you can try to find a business that is similar to what you're doing and look at, what's their revenue? How many employees do they have? And use that to kind of gauge your expectations and your projections. And then it can also generate a map of where those businesses are. So if you use this to generate a list of competitors, you can see, okay, is there a gap somewhere where maybe this need is not yet being met? And use that to figure out, again, where to target for your advertising, or if you're setting up a physical business, where might be a good spot to actually set up. And then the other half is simply analytics. This is the one that allows you to, among many other things, this database is huge. It's incredibly vast. But it allows you to look at a map and say, okay, where are people spending money on, in this case, pet products? When I do this live, the example I usually use is coffee. If I wanted to set up a coffee shop, where are people already spending money on coffee? Where are they not? If they're not spending money in there, do people live there and they're not spending money because there's just no coffee shops near them? But among other things, this can also generate ranking tables. So you can look at like which, say, zip codes or which census tracts spend the most money on, again, a specific product. You can also use this to look at like consumer attitudes. How do people feel about certain things? There are hundreds of thousands of data points in Simply Analytics, everything from health to education to age of the population. So if you're doing a business that is geared toward children's services, where are the highest number of kids living? Age of housing. So if you're looking to set up something that does home repair, where are the older houses in the county that are more likely to need repairs? Was there a question? Okay. Well, if there is, just let me know. But again, this database, I could easily spend an hour or two just talking about this database and demoing all that it has. This is an example of one of the tables it can generate. So you can see things like, household income, and the sample graphic there just shows the county, North Carolina, and the USA. But you can get really specific. So beyond just Mecklenburg County, you can look at cities within the county. You can look at zip codes. It goes all the way down to, in most cases, block groups, which are even smaller than census tracts. So it can get very granular.
Yeah, excuse me. I have one question. I'm in the DC, Maryland area. If I go to my local library, what will I be asking for again?
If you're looking for this database in particular, this one is Simply Analytics.
Okay, Simply Analytics. Okay.
And then the previous one I talked about was Data Axle.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if they didn't have one or both of these. Data Axle especially, it's very well known, very widely used.
Okay. And I have to go to the library, nowhere else but the library?
I can't say that for sure. It would depend on the organizations in your area. Sometimes other organizations might make this available, like sometimes like professional groups might subscribe for their members. And then they do offer, in most cases, individual subscriptions, though those can get a bit pricey.
Right.
So I'd start with the library, but I can't say for sure that no one outside of libraries would have access to it.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And again, if they don't have access to it and you feel like you need something, if you can tell me what you're looking for and it's just a quick table, I'm happy to generate that and email it to you. And then if you need further access to it beyond just a quick table or quick map, which is the other thing, by the way, you can export the maps and the tables and the charts that both Simply Analytics and Data Axle provide. You can export them in like PDF formats and then include them in your business plan if needed.
Okay.
But if you do need further access beyond just a quick chart or two, and you can't get it locally, just visit our website and you can get a virtual card.
Okay.
But start with your local institution first, because they're likely to have at least one of these.
Okay.
Other questions so far? Okay. So, you put all that together and you use those two databases in conjunction to find, again, where to target for your marketing, where to target for a potential, home location. What are the competitors out there and how big a threat are they likely to be? What are what can you expect to make in profits?
I have a question.
Okay.
So with that previous slide, do you have to pinpoint as far as wanting that particular information? An example being 1,105 households per competitor. Like, do you have to put in keywords in order to get that particular information, or how would that work?
Do you mean, do you have to put that in your business plan, or how do you get that number?
She talking about
Yes,
like a
just that
certain county?
number.
You're talking about how do you derive that number?
Yes.
So you would look at things like, again, the number of competitors. You can get that from Data Axle. And then using something like, again, Simply Analytics, you would get the percentage of households that have or that meet your criteria. So they use Data Axle to generate the 269, and then in Simply Analytics, I think it's partially blocked by the text on the slide. But that's where they get the number of the percentage of pet owners. You can also look at national statistics. So if we go back, that I think this is where they're getting the 70% is actually from the ABI Inform. So that 70% is not necessarily specific to Mecklenburg County, but it's probably not going to be that far off either. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
And that then they're using that to generate the number there.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay. Here's just another example with Simply Analytics of the other variables you can target. So that this is looking at, this particular table is looking at age. But again, there are thousands of data points in there. And so then other resources we have Masterfile, which has things like, among other things, consumer reports. But you can use it again to get statistics, find expert authority. And then locally, we do have the Charlotte Business Journal and the Charlotte Observer. So you can find out about what's going on in the community and in the industry in the area. And then training. I know Andrew mentioned sometimes you need additional skills training. We have LinkedIn Learning, which used to be called lynda.com, if anyone's familiar with that. But LinkedIn Learning provides, as they say in the description there, over 130,000 videos on a wide variety of technology and business topics. So maybe you're doing a web-based business and you want to brush up on your web design skills. They have classes on how to do web design, web development, graphics design, e-commerce, things like that. And the way LinkedIn Learning works is they have courses, and the courses are made up of collections of videos. And the videos are broken up into short segments of 5 to 10 minutes each. And you can then watch one and it'll remember where you've left off. So you don't have to sit there and watch the whole, 3 to 10 hour course in one sitting. You can break it up. We also have Universal Class, which it's a lot more like an online university than it is just video-based learning. But they have a wide variety of topics as well, including things like Microsoft Office. So if you're trying to use Excel and you're not comfortable with Excel, between the Excel classes in LinkedIn Learning and the Excel class and Universal Class, we've got you covered there. Is that making any kind of sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then we do have things like the Gale Directory Library, which allows you to look up, for example, the Encyclopedia of Associations, the National Directory of Nonprofit Associations, things like that. So you can find, maybe professional organizations to either join or possibly to market to. And then we do have one-on-one business research appointments. Usually these happen online. And then at Allegra Westbrooks, we also do have one-on-one sessions where I can definitely go over the business resources in more detail. And those can be either online or in person at the Allegra Westbrooks branch where I am. And then, of course, the catalog. We've got a lot of ebooks, audiobooks, physical books, videos, and more available through cmlibrary.org. So that's some of what we have. One of the resources that I do want to demo live is called the Business Plan Handbook series. So for that, you would start off at cmlibrary.org, and then you can click on Research and Learn. And if you go down, we've got the resources A to Z list here. And inside there, we've got the complete A to Z list. And if you go down to Gale eBooks, about halfway down in the first column, and you click on that, it will ask for your library card number. And then it will take you in. Yeah, there we go. We'll take you in here. Now, don't be scared by how dated some of the titles look. The e-collection is very hard to weed, which means deselect, so it's very hard to get rid of older materials. But if you come down to the business section, the Business Plan Handbook series here is updated several times a year. We already have 3 volumes for 2024. And so this gives you a collection of, again, these were business plans that were used in successful businesses. Each handbook has a wide variety of plans. And if I go back for a moment, you do have the Search Within series. Usually appears in the top right corner. It's for some reason not appearing on my tablet, but usually there's a Search Within series box in the top right corner that lets you search within the Business Plan Handbook series. But then you can always browse. And so like, here's an example. Like I said, the example I always use is a coffee shop. So here's an example of a business plan that was used with a successful coffee truck. And so it gives you an idea of the type of data they gathered that you can then go back to ABI Inform or Data Axle or Simply Analytics and use those to find the type of data they have in here to customize your own plan. Is that making any kind of sense?
Yes.
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 Any questions for me?
There is just a wealth of information that I didn't even know about at the library.
Me neither. This is
I think
awesome.
it really is. It really is. I could spend hours just lost in that data.
Yeah, that's frequently the challenge. That's frequently the challenge for me, is that yes, especially when I do the live demos, is stopping myself from going, because like I said, between Data Axle and Simply Analytics especially, I could spend hours on just those two.
Sure. Hey, Jeremy, I just applied for a library card. I'm in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County.
Okay, awesome.
And it said within 30 days, go to a library, show proof of ID. Then I get this, within 5 days, you'll receive an email from online reference at CM Library regarding your application. Do I have to wait for that email to go into the library, or could I go tomorrow?
Not if you're in the county. If you're in the county, you can go to any, well, you can't go tomorrow because unfortunately because of the weather, we're closed tomorrow.
Oh, sure, yeah, right.
But hopefully Saturday, starting Saturday, you can go and they'll have kind of a proto account for you that they can then just fill in the missing details from your physical ID and get you set up right then.
Okay, great. Thank you.
One question. The book A Librarian, I know that you spoke on that previously, that's in person or online. What does that consist of?
So let me get back to, let me share my screen real fast again and I'll show you. Come on. There we go. Back on the library's homepage, if you go to the events button, if you're wanting me specifically, filter it down to the on the locations on the left-hand side, filter it down to Allegra Westbrooks. But if you're just looking in general, if you scroll down the event type one-on-one, you can check that. And this shows you all of our one-on-ones. And if you go further in, there's business development also under event type.
Wow.
So the one-on-ones, it's limited, or it's you come in and tell us what you're wanting to learn. Let me take the one-on-one filter off. There we go. You come in and tell us what you're wanting to learn, and we do our best to teach you. There's going to be some things that are too advanced for us. Like if you come in and say, I need to build a website. We're not, web designers. But the ones for me, the ones that say book a librarian, technology, or nonprofits, those are mine. And I don't put small business on there just because it was already unwieldy enough with the technology and nonprofits. But if it says technology or nonprofits, that's me, and I'm happy to go over the business resources. And then here you see one of the ones that is a book a librarian business research one. I think this one is going to be with Yolanda, who is we don't really have a position title for a small business librarian, but if we did as a system, Yolanda would be the closest one to it.
This is
And
great.
then,
I never knew of having these resources. I think it just takes as far as someone announcing this, but I would have never thought of having access to someone to be able to give you this type of information without having to actually pay someone, we're paying you, but at the same time that you can actually request this.
Well,
This
if you
is
live in
great.
Mecklenburg County, you are already paying us. Your
You're
tax
right.
dollars pay our
I'm
salary.
looking for you.
But this allows you to browse all of the business programs. So like if you wanted to take the SCORE workshop again, this is where those get listed as well. But did that answer your question?
Yes, most certainly. And I'll be looking for you at the Allegra Westbrook branch.
Awesome. I will warn you, I am terrible with names, utterly terrible. So, you might need to remind me, oh, I was in the SCORE class the other day.
Great, I will. Thank you for your help.
And I saw some stuff got put in chat. Let me review it and see if there are any questions there. Okay. So Jill, if you will email me, so I have your email address, I can send you the handout and brochure that I have for the business resources. Gaurav, I hope I pronounced that right. Same, please. Yeah, but yeah, just I'll drop my email again. But if you're wanting a copy, email me, and when I'm back in the branch at my desktop where the file is actually stored, I can send that.
Great, thank you.
Well, thank you. Any other last questions, comments, thoughts?
That was really good, Jeremy. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
So I appreciate everyone being on today and this rainy night. So if like I said, if you have any further questions, feel free to email me. I put that in the chat. And I'll also send you a business plan template. Again, don't be overwhelmed by it. It's just a guideline. And I'll also just send you a general table of contents so you don't see the whole document. Maybe that might be less. That's a one-pager. So yeah, so I appreciate it. If any of you do not have a mentor, I totally recommend it. Like I said, it's a free resource, and especially if a lot of us have the experience either starting a business or we've been in the industry. It could be in that industry that you're working in, and that would obviously be very helpful. So all right, anything else before we let you have your dinner?
Your email isn't in the chat box. Jeremy's is listed, but yours
I'll do
isn't.
it. It is in there. I must have done it a little while ago. Let me see. I'll do it
Yeah, I
again.
think it got bumped up.
Yeah, there's so many of them. Yeah. I have it, but I'll just do it again so you have it right there.
Okay, thank
Um,
you.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm gonna send you guys an email anyway. Did you get that? I just sent it. Yes?
No,
I'm not
No.
No, I
seeing
didn't
the.
get it either.
I'm
You're
not,
in the chat?
Oh,
yeah, I'm not
You
seeing
know
it.
why? I know why. I didn't send it to everyone, it just went to the host. Okay, hold on. I'll do it one more time. That's why you
I
didn't get it.
love the way Zoom defaults to that every time.
Yeah, I don't know why it does.
It-
Yeah, it's like it should.
yeah, it throws
Okay,
me off so
you gotta
much.
change it. Yeah. Let me see. Now, did you get it?
There you
yes.
go.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, have a great evening and good luck with everything.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
the time.
Bye-bye.
You're very
Thank you all.
welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Have a good night.